Hey everybody, welcome back. Somebody asking about how I build my roll cages. So I told them I would try to do a video on it. Not sure how good it's going to work because I do this with my phone and I set it on a tripod, but I can't always see where it's pointing. But I'll try, do my best here. I'm starting a Chevy Cobalt. It's going to be like a super modified drag car. So I already cut this chassis was from a GTO, new style GTO, not the old one. But I cut the back half off and I put did the start of my back half here. So I'm going to attach the roll cage to the floor pan here. But what I normally do is I take a piece of this styrene and I take my body and I kind of lay it out inside, hard to describe, like I'll stick the rod through the window and just try to make a mark with my finger. I leave it a little long because I trim it off later. But like I'll pinch my finger here, make a little bit of a bend. And there's times where I mess up and ruin a piece of styrene, which makes me not happy. Because this stuff that I have that's bendable, I got from eBay, from a guy on eBay, and I don't know I can get more now that I'm not in America. So anyway, I'll match up the bend there, and then go up to where the next bend's going to be. And this is not an exact science because I just kind of guess at most of it. And then I'll make a harder bend. And I got this method from somebody else on YouTube years ago. I think it might have been Dr. Cranky or somebody, but it works pretty good. I mean, occasionally, like I said, you get a mistake. So you can see it pretty much follows the contour inside the body. So then I'll make another finger mark here, pull it out. And the hard part here is keeping everything in line. It seems like when you make a bend, a lot of times if this is not quite level, you'll get like a twist in it. And in this one, I'll start slow and go back in the body to make sure that I didn't make it too wide. Now it looks pretty good if you look up at the roof there where the bends are. And one of the things, well, I may have to shorten that a little bit. One of the things I always end up doing is I make these really tight, and then when I go to put the windows in, I can't get the body back on when the windows are in. So let's just narrow this a little bit by bending on the other side of the bend. You know, instead of where I had the pliers, I move it up a little bit and just bend there. And then again, I kind of eyeball. I'm going to take another piece to try to find where to put the other bend. See, I bent too far on the top. Now we'll go back inside the body again. Yeah, and that's the main hoop. And I'll cut it off. By the way, this body, I've been looking for something like this forever, and nobody makes this in plastic kit. Nobody makes it in resin that I could ever find, and I did find this 3D printed from Shapeways, and it's a lot of work because there's a lot of ribs in it, and by the time you fill, you got to keep filling with primer and sanding to get rid of the marks, and by that time you start losing all your door lines and trunk lines and tail light lines. So it's kind of a balance to try not to lose all your lines and fill in the print marks. And I don't know what this is made out of. Most of my 3D printed stuff I had been really brittle, And this stuff, this is like really flexible. You can see, you know, it twists. And when I would cut the hood out of it, I had a heck of a time cutting it. I mean, I was scribing it with the scriber, thinking I could go through it. And finally, when I did get through, I took a little saw and sawed it out. But it was really tough cutting. And in the back here, I cut out for where the wheelie bars are going to stick out. But anyway, let me cut this off here. Move this out of the way. And what I do is I just lay an X-Acto knife on there and kind of roll it a little bit. Once you get a score mark, you can break it right along where you marked it. And then we'll do this side. And this you fine tune this as you go along. Actually, it's got a little, it's not quite concentric, but it's really not bad. And once it's attached in the chassis, you'll never see that. So then, because it'll kind of get its own shape back. So then what I do is I drill. I go into the ends here with a real small drill. I have to do this twice because I'm put a small pilot hole in it first. Maybe I can learn how to fast forward when I edit this. Maybe I can speed it up so I don't have an hour-long video. The reason I do this with two separate drills is because the one that fits my pins is bent and it wobbles. And I'm afraid it's going to break if you can see the wobble in it probably. If I start with this size, I may end up breaking the drill, which I think I might have another one, but still I don't want to break it. And I tried to straighten it, but you can't really straighten a drill. You get a little wobble to them. I thought about cutting it off and make it shorter so I could grab it down further in the chuck, and then maybe it won't wobble so much. Okay, so then once I get the holes in that fit these pins, I use these straight pins, came from Walmart, and I have a couple leftover pieces here. So I stick that down in, and this one I'm going to pull the ball off the end because it's too short. I've been cutting them. I cut them down as I use them. And I usually glue them in, but until I get exactly where everything the right height and length, I don't want to glue them. Okay, so when I stick that in, I just cut it off. So now we got a main hoop with two little locator pins in it. So then I go back to the chassis, figure out where I want it. And then my pins fell out already. Anyway, we're going to be back here, I believe. Let me see if I can get an idea. And this I did a lot of cutting on here to make this fit the body. And so if you look inside, you can kind of see where the door post is. It's about in this little well here. So then what I'll do is I'll drill holes through all that. And the nice thing about this is if you mess up, you fill the hole in, drill a new one. It's not that big of a deal. And this is a two-piece. That's the bottom of the interior tub is on the floor pan, and this kit was actually a snap kit. So I just have it kind of snapped in, and I will glue it later after it's all come apart for paint. I keep forgetting you people can't see this because I move it over me. Maybe I move the camera, rotate it a little bit, see if that helps. Okay, then we go back to the big one again, or bigger. Okay, let me put another pin in here because by the time I bend down and try to find that other one, I can cut a new one. And what happens when you cut these with the cutting pliers, it puts an edge on them, so sometimes they won't go in the hole. Sometimes you gotta deburr it. That went in. Sometimes that little edge helps keep them in position. Okay, and then you just line up your holes, push it through, and you can see it's a little bit off center, but by the time I'll kind of finagle it around a little bit, and when I add more braces, it'll come back in shape. But now we put the body back on. Now you can see I'm too high. See, so that's why I don't glue the pins in right away, because it takes a lot of trial and error of trimming it down, because you don't want to get it too low. You want to keep it fitting tight. So if you look the difference between these two holes here, that's probably, I don't know, about 3/8 of an inch maybe. So I'm going to take it back off. And I'm going to pull my pins. And I'm going to drill my hole a little bit deeper before I cut it. It's hard to get these holes exactly centered in the tube, so I like to not have to start over with a new hole if I can help it. This one at least is pretty close to centered. Okay, so I got my X-Acto knife, and I'll just use the lines here on my cutting mat. This isn't my sharp blade. This may not be enough, but it's easier to cut it a couple times than to add back to it. And I'll just make sure the hole's still deep enough, which it appears to be. And put the pins back in. These things are hard to keep a hold of without losing them. If you use tweezers, you'll more than likely lose them. At least with these little needle nose pliers, you can hold a little bit tighter. Okay, next test fit. Back inside the body again. And I have pinhole, or I say pinholes, but I drilled this body, you can see right there, and I drilled through the floor pan, so I can always locate it the same place every time. I actually have 4 holes, but I'm just going to put 2 pins in for now. Sometimes it's hard to find where your hole is. Okay, you can see, maybe, yeah. See, we're pretty close to the roof, if not up against. Yeah, I believe I'm going to take just a tiny little bit more off of there. I'm going to do that off camera. Actually, I'm going to take a break from now anyway. I don't want this video to get too long, but it's going to be, I'm trying to do it all in one video, so I'll stop and start often. Okay, I did a little bit more tweaking here on this main hoop, and I made some marks here so it always goes back on the same side, and in the same direction. I glued the pins in. They're not permanent. Yeah, I tweaked a little bit on here too. Where this bend was, it was different from side to side, and it's still not perfect, but it's pretty close now. Okay, so then my next bar is always to tie the seat, or you know where the seat would mount to, but the crossbar, I'm gonna call it the crossbar. So I kind of ballpark measurement on that. I fine-tune it after I cut it. But we'll do the initial. Oh, this is a piece of tubing. That's not what I wanted. Okay, but either way, I'll use that as my reference mark. I have two different types of styrene here, and I got these mixed up. The stuff that I got from the guy on eBay is bendable, and the evergreen, sometimes you can bend it, sometimes it breaks, and sometimes you cut it off twice and it's still too short. But I think I can make it work. I'll just move it up. So we'll put a little taper on both ends for the sandpaper file. And we'll put a little Tamiya extra thin. This is always tricky to get it in place before that stuff dries. Once it starts sticking, you can add more. It seems like it always sticks to your fingers rather than to itself. Yeah. Not quite level. Yeah, that's closer. I mean, I try to make this as right as I can make it, but in reality, how much of it are you going to see when it's inside the car? Oh, fell down. I think we'll add a little bit of super glue to that, just to give it a little more strength. Okay, we'll let that dry, and when we come back, we're going to work at the front bars. I do one on each side, then a cross piece. Two cross pieces, usually one at the dash, one up above, and then side bars, rear bars. This car is going to have a funny car cage, so we're going to go in from there and come down. So anyway, we'll be back. Okay, let's get on to the next step here of the roll cage. I put the body on the chassis with the 4 pins. We got the main hoop in. So the front ones, I do the same thing, basically. Go inside the car, or sometimes from the outside is easier, but make my little reference here of where we're going to start the bend. And just put a slight bend on it. That looks pretty good. And then we need another bend down here. And a lot of times I'll leave it long at the back and have to, shorten it up. We need a little bit more bend on both of them. We went too far with this one. And again, I just kind of trial and error. I think the front one needs a little bit more. Now we pull the body back off to try to get the length of the front part of it. We're going to go into there, into this bar. And again, I kind of start on the conservative side. And these things spring a lot, so you might think you have it too long, but it's really just sprung. And I'm going to drill this and pin the front. The hard part here is making both sides the same too. And I kind of forgot that I'm going to have to get a dashboard in there, which I may be notching the dash. A lot of the cars I build don't use a traditional dash, so I can just build the cage and then make a little, like a flat piece of styrene to work as a dash. But this car is going to be needing, which, that's right, I don't have a factory dash for Cobalt. I'm not even sure if I have the GTO dash or not. That might create a new set of problems. stick that in the hole. You can see it looks like I'm high, but I may just have to bend this in. I don't know. I gotta put the body on and see where everything fits. Yeah, I would say we're way high. Well, not way.